Hey, good morning, everybody. It is Happy Valentine's Day. It is February the 14th. I'm here in my extremely very messy office, as you can see, and I am just going to do a little update live. I am getting ready to head downtown, and I am going to Legislative Plaza. Now, I'm not going to tell what I'm going to do down there because I'm being watched and I'm being stalked, and I can't allow them to supersede what I'm doing. I have studied all the bills that have to do with children and families that are currently pending. I've got my little spy goggles on as far as what's going on at the General Assembly. I'm watching a lot of the videos that are being live streamed, what they're talking about, what's going on. I've watched all of the DCS hearings. I've been at some of them. I am full on eyes on. Now, I said I'm being stalked and watched, and I'm going to tell you absolutely. And, President Trump was raided by the FBI. Well, I had a secret search warrant on all of my Facebook social media done by the Brentwood Police Department. Yes, so they got into all of my private messages, all of my IP addresses, all my emails, all my communications, all my comments, all my posts, all my videos, all my photos, right? And they even admitted that I had private settings. So that issue is one I am challenging, but I just know they are constantly trying to see what I'm up to and what I'm doing. And that's one reason that I've laid kind of low. So like I said, you'll see I'm here in my messy office. I still got a bunch of things going on. I am still, bear fighting tooth and nail, but just going to give you a quick update on a couple of things. So any of you who know me, exiting system so they cannot, Lynn's absolutely. They've already exited me out of the system. So I don't have to exit myself. They have exited me out of the system, but I am still working the system, and I'm going to show what they did. So let me catch you all up. So any of you who know me, who've seen anything, like I said, I've been kind of laying low since, probably almost 2 years, ever since they started prosecuting my client and, threatening her. They threatened her to testify against me. They threatened to put her in jail, even though it would be absolutely outside of the sentencing guidelines. Yeah, we do need to talk. So message me through Messenger, Lens, and we will chat about that. All right. So my client, Wendy Hancock, they arrested both of us for custodial interference. And I always said from the very beginning, it was a fake felony. It was a fake felony because Judge Joseph A. Woodruff and Kim Helper, by the way, the district attorney, they eliminated certain language out of the statute so that they could create a new crime. So Kim Helper and Judge Woodruff created a new crime. Now, if you don't know who they are, I have some photographs here for you. Let me see if I can find them. Oh, I have all kinds of interesting photographs here. This is Kim Helper. So see that? That's Kim Helper, Williamson County District Attorney. This is Laurie Ross. Laurie Ross is a Brentwood detective who decided to do the secret search warrant on all of my social media. And let me see if I don't have this one other person here that you need to see. Yes, right here. So this is Joseph A. Woodruff, right? Joseph A. Woodruff is the judge who created the new law. And this is District Attorney Kim Helper with her cohort there, Mary Catherine Evans. And those are the ones who stepped up to prosecute Wendy and I at the request of Tracy Hetzel. I don't know if I have Tracy Hetzel's picture in here. Let me just see here. I got a bunch of pictures. This is me and Detective Ross. If you missed that news little article where I told her not to touch me. This is Deandra Miller in DeKalb County. She's the one who lied in the petition to get the secret protective order. This is Judge Michael Collins, who at the time was a general sessions judge in Smith County, who is now a circuit court judge. And he is the one who signed the secret protective order on the false affidavit filed by Deandra Miller. And let me just see if there's anybody else in here you need to take a look. Oh, I got lots of pictures in here. I'm going to ultimately show you all these pictures so you know who all of these people are. All right. So anyway, let me catch you up. So Wendy's case was in the summer of 2021. And during still the COVID pandemic, we had some people come from out of town to watch the trial through Family Forward. Some really great people who have been real big supporters of mine. First, they weren't going to let them in the courthouse because of COVID. So I had to go down. I had to confront security. God bless. I'm so sorry I had to do that because I told them, it's like, look, I know you're just the messenger. I shouldn't have to, confront you. I had them go pull the rules. And then they're like, well, we have to ask the judge. And I'm like, well, go ask the judge. Right. So I finally got them in the courthouse. And then the judge actually confronted one of my witnesses. And he really kind of blamed, not witnesses, I'm sorry, my supporters who were there for me and Wendy. And then he actually a phone rang in the galley, they call it. In a courtroom you have the bar, right, which is the little gate, right? That if you're only in the club can you go beyond the gate. And so they were sitting in the galley and a phone went off, and they kind of acted like it was one of our people, Family Forward people, and yet it wasn't. It was actually Sophia Crawford. Oh, I need to get her picture for you too. Yeah, we'll have a whole discussion about Miss Crawford. So in the meantime, so Wendy's case goes to trial, and because they jacked up the law, changed the law, created a new law, of course they were able to convict her without any efforts. The facts aren't in dispute. The problem is it wasn't a crime. So then they convicted her. They got her all nervous. They were supposed to have my trial on September 21. The day before the trial, all of a sudden Mary Catherine Evans says she's sick. So it gets bumped. It gets bumped to April of 2022. 10 months later. Now, remember, this has occurred in 2018. So we are 4 years into this before they get it. And they just wanted it hanging over my head. They just wanted that constant thing so they could get a disciplinary action going, so they could, because they knew ultimately it was going to fall down and crash on them. They thought they would just wear us out and we would just go away. So they have Wendy's trial. They have my trial during early voting, of course, because they want to make sure they can make a big deal about it during the election cycle where I was seeking to be the juvenile court judge. And so, yeah, they are all corrupt. Corrupt. All right. So Wendy's case is on appeal. My case, now think about this. My case was in April 2022. They still have not provided me the transcript for the appeal. We are going to be a year after the fact before I even have a transcript, before I even have, and I paid for it. I paid the full price of the transcript, over $8,000, to be able to appeal this fake felony. And we're still waiting on the transcript. So Wendy's case is on appeal, though. It is rocking and rolling. They have, the public defender has represented her. The public defender filed a great brief basically pointing out the judge can't rewrite the law. And then comes the attorney general's office. Now, we have a new attorney general in Tennessee. His name is Scrutiny. Okay, he was in Tennessee. The attorney general is selected by the Supreme Court, which I think is kind of weird and probably should not occur. In most states, you elect an attorney general. Attorney general, in Tennessee, the attorney general is selected by the Tennessee Supreme Court and then approved by the governor, which is Governor Bill Lee. So Scrutiny. Now, I understand. I did a little bit of background on him. He seems to have an interest in prosecuting corruption. And I don't know, though, maybe not, because this case then goes to the attorney general. Wendy's case on appeal has to be responded to by the attorney general's office, not by Kim Helper, not by Mary Catherine Evans, but the state of Tennessee is represented by the attorney general's office. Now, I would think, because I have had cases in the past where the attorney general has owned up to the judge's mistake and said, no, the judge did the wrong thing. It needs to be reversed, vacated, and remanded. And I kind of thought, well, maybe the attorney general will now stand up and tell the truth. And the attorney general will say, he can't change the law. So honestly, that's like a constitutional violation. We're going to have to vacate that. That's not what they did. So Catherine Decker is the deputy attorney general who wrote the responsive brief for the state of Tennessee. So, Catherine Decker. So, the Attorney General's office has about 50 attorneys, probably at least. So, it's a pretty big law firm. I can't say that Attorney General Scrutiny knows all of his attorney generals that are in that office. I know a lot. I probably know more of the AGs in there just because I've had so many dealings with them. I can probably tell you more through termination of parental rights, through criminal cases, through public records requests, through federal cases in which I've tried to seek civil rights. And all have been represented by the Attorney General's office. I know, so I've dealt with more of them personally and seen their work probably more than the Attorney General did when he came on. So, Burleson OHS. Okay. All right. I'm looking at some of my notes here. So just in case there's a question I want to address immediately. All right. So the Attorney General is Catherine Decker. So Catherine Decker, I'm like, okay, who is this girl, Catherine Decker? So I did a little research on her. And Catherine Decker has already been working for the state as an attorney in a couple other states. So she was working in Colorado. And there's a news article out there about how the way she had handled this horrific, violent criminal murder was a mistrial on it because the way she had handled the case personally. And then there is out there, she was also in Texas. So in Texas, apparently she was working on some type of environmental commission and somebody did a public records request and she refused to produce the documents. And so we were able to locate a letter from the governor's office that basically told her she had wrongfully denied public records and she needed to comply with the public records request promptly. So, she is not unfettered herself, right? So Catherine Decker, and she came into Tennessee, let's see, I think it was 2015. I'm not real sure when she moved into Tennessee and got licensed in this area. But she wrote this brief and she talks about the Sentencing Commission comments and how they would support what Joseph Woodruff and Kim Helper did. But she didn't put in her brief that the Sentencing Commission was terminated in 1995, and it clearly says that it does not apply to any laws that were passed after 1995. The law that they are prosecuting Winnie Hancock and myself on was passed in 2004. Okay, that would be like 9 years after the fact. She did not put that in her brief. So she is either totally ignorant or she intentionally withheld that information from the Court of Criminal Appeals, who will be reviewing this matter. So let's talk about the second thing she did. So then, instead of arguing a legitimate basis for what the judge did, she makes a grammatical argument about how the way the statute is written, the qualifying clause would only apply to the noun phrase in which it is immediately adjacent to and not the entirety. And then she goes on and she says, well, I think that's true because in 2016, there was another addition to the statute and they worded it differently. Okay, I'm not going to get into the weeds of that, just generally so you understand. So I'm like, okay, so she's in the Attorney General's office, and I had already done all the legislative history research. I had already pulled all the original bills that I could get my hands on and how this law had changed in 1989, 2004, 2016. So I already had that in my hands. And so I was reviewing it, and she absolutely lied again. She did not do her research. She did not do her homework. She's working in the Attorney General's office. She did not properly do her legislative history legwork, because she would have found out that even LexisNexis misquoted the law the way it was passed by the Governor Haslam, in 2016. So, and again, I'm not going to get into the weeds. Some point I will show all that documentation, but she made two, and that's her whole argument. She made two huge errors on that. Obstruction of justice. Yes, Lynn. So I'll say there's a whole malicious prosecution thing going on here that will ultimately be revealed when they just cannot sustain what they did. All right, so let me tell you. So Wendy's case, so now her attorney has filed a reply, and that case is set for oral argument on March the 21st at 9:30. Now, they were doing live broadcast of the oral arguments during COVID. I'm not sure if they are now. I'm going to try to find out. If you cannot be present for the oral argument. If you're not within, somewhere in this vicinity where you can actually go, and sit in the room and watch them, which would be very interesting because I would love to see them just squirm over this. Well, they're not going to because they're so arrogant, but I'm going to see if we can't get a track on a live stream broadcast of that. So in the meantime, I'm still waiting for a transcript because when they convicted me of a fake felony, they immediately suspended my license, even though I tried to petition and say, look, I should at least have a hearing because you're the Supreme Court and you should not allow a fake felony to cut off my ability to help people, because that's what I do. It's not my right to practice law. It's my ability to help people based upon my experience and my knowledge. And when they did that, I had some 30 different people and families that I was working with and I was helping, and I was in the middle of something, and I was cut off. And in 10 days, I had to get out of the cases and just tell clients they're on their own. Good luck. You're on your own. You need to go find somebody else. And there were lots of people who were affected by that. Lots of people. Some very serious cases were pending. People were facing termination of parental rights, major civil rights litigation, loss of their children. And they came to me because they trusted me and they knew about my background and knowledge. And they got cheated. Okay? They got cheated. And, those are people who ultimately, I don't know what they need to do, but some of those people probably are willing to rise up and say, you cheated me. So show cause, well, nope, can't do a show cause. Show cause is very, very limited. It sort of reverses the burden of proof. It can be used in only very limited circumstances. All right, so I filed a complaint against Miss Decker. I filed a complaint because they always file complaints against me. Everybody wants to file a complaint against Connie, all the judges. Judges file complaints on Connie because she calls them out for what they do. And then they file a complaint over just some crazy things. I'm not going to get into all those weeds either, and we'll talk about that again some other time. But so I file a complaint against Catherine Decker, and I say she's got a duty to be competent, and she's got a duty to disclose to the court when her authority has outdated. Those are two black and white. I said she is either totally incompetent, she's either totally ignorant of the law, or she is intentionally withholding that from the reviewing court, because she tried to say that the visitation order language in the statute was not material, was not essential element. And there's already been a case that's determined that it is part of the law, detaining a child in violation of a visitation order. So I filed a complaint on her. So what I get back is I get this letter from Beverly Sharp at the board. Now, notice at the top it says Board of Professional Responsibility, but look at what it says: Consumer Assistance Program. Now, here's the way the Board of Professional Responsibility works. They pick and choose who they want to prosecute. Let's just call it out for what it is. I've called this out for years. They decide who they want to get rid of, and then they just pick and choose, right? This is a perfect example. So I filed a legitimate complaint on her for her total incompetence and for her withholding information in her brief. And they turn it in to a consumer assistance program case, because there are two tracks. One is ethical and one is consumer assistance, which is basically about fees and whether or not somebody has charged somebody improperly and they want you to mediate. No, this is not a consumer assistance program case. This is an ethical violation. She is a public servant. She is being paid out of Tennessee taxpayer dollars. And she is lying to cover up what a district attorney and what an elected judge did. Okay, she is covering up constitutional violations. So as far as I'm concerned, she's in on it, right? All right, so that is, so I'm going to move to another public records request. I did two other public records requests that are pretty important. I'm just going to share with you real quick, and then I'm going to head downtown because I need to be there first thing in the morning, or I just get totally distracted and can't get myself down there. And I have some things I'm going to talk to people about. Again, I'm not going to tell you because I know how they are. They're like, I'm sure there's some of the people are watching, or they're going to stump through and see this video in a little bit, and they're like, Connie's heading downtown. We need to put the alerts out that she's heading downtown. So I'm not going to tell you what I'm doing down there until after it's done. Also, I watched a great video yesterday. I posted on Family Forward Project that I saw a great video that I'm so excited to share, but the video is out there in the internet. And if I start talking about it, they're going to eliminate it. So I have to preserve it and copy it and download it. Thank you, Jennifer. I love you. So I have to preserve this video, but I'm going to tell you, I can't say too much because they'll figure out what it is. I'm just going to tell you, I was so excited to hear this, what was happening in this video. Okay, just hang in there because I'm going to share it with you. I promise I am. All right, so I'm going to quickly share two other public records requests I did and what the status of those is. I'm going to tell you about one law in particular that they're trying to get in Tennessee. I'm not going to talk about all of them, but there's one I want to catch you up on. All right, so I also did a public records request because of this. I told you earlier, this Brentwood detective, yes, here, Miss Laurie Ross. So Miss Laurie Ross works for the Brentwood Police Department. So she did a secret search warrant on my entire Facebook, social media platform, everything. And guess who signed it? Judge Woodruff, of course. Judge Woodruff signed it. And she asked for everything she puts in there. She's like, I know that she has privacy settings. That's why I have to get a search warrant. And so I did because the timing was very odd. So this case started in August of 2018. This investigation apparently started secretly at the end of September in 2018 and was initiated by Tracy Hetzel, who is a DCS public servant employee, and Sarah Cripps, who is a private attorney who gets appointed for guarding the lineup all the time out in DeKalb County. So those two go to see Miss Laurie Ross, and they file a complaint against Wendy and I. So Wendy and I don't know anything about it for months and months and months and months and months. After Wendy's case is dropped, they find out she's not a drug dealer because she was never a drug dealer. They do a nail bed exam on her. She doesn't have drugs in her system, and they close the case and send her kids home. Well, her daughter, had been in 6 homes and 4 schools over a 10-month period. It was horrendous. Like there's still like associated trauma from that. And I respect her. I'm not going to, get into what some of those things are, but I just trust me, there is serious trauma related and associated with forced separation. And so I'm like, and the search warrant wasn't until December of 2018. And all the facts were known. There's no big secret here. I mean, we never denied the facts. We just said it's not a crime. And so, so she issues this warrant on December the 4th of 2018. And I'm like, why December 4th? Why like 3.5 months after this case is going on? Why did she then decide to get a search warrant? I'm like, this does not make any sense. I mean, you should have seen this trial. You would have thought Wendy and I were smuggling children and drugs. I mean, they had special investigator come in who tracked my car. I mean, it's no secret, y'all. I mean, I've lived in the same house for 20 years. Like I made multiple phone calls to them, telling them I was willing to help and assist them with them in their investigation. And if they spent this much time tracking drug dealers and child traffickers, then we would not have child trafficking. I mean, they put so much time and investment. Even my own attorney was like, this is unbelievable. And he does like murders and drug dealers. And he's like, it's unbelievable what they put into this. So they get this search warrant. Judge Woodruff signs it. They get the results. I don't know anything. Okay. Facebook does not notify you when somebody has issued a search warrant. And there's this whole case out of New York that says Facebook users don't have standing to object, or Facebook does not have standing to object to a search warrant on a user. Okay, just keep that in mind. Facebook tried to contest search warrants out of, and I believe it's New York, it's a northeastern state. And the court said Facebook does not have standing to contest those search warrants, but they can do them in secret. And I'm sure they know that. So I'm like, why did they do it then? I'm thinking through, I go back, I look at all of Wendy's case, I draw out a timeline in the fall of 2018, and they were very, very upset that Wendy and I were doing live streams. And we were talking about what they were doing, and we were calling them out. We were calling out on their secret orders that, Dee Dee Miller had lied, that, they were trying to hustle, some, again, there's some details I'm just going to stop myself on because of just respect for the situation. So we just knew something was going on. So what had happened is in November of 2018, Tracy Hetzel had gone to get a gag order to keep Wendy and I from talking about the case on social media. And so the judge gave him a gag order, right? Totally unconstitutional. But we were in the middle of the case. I couldn't do anything about the gag order at the time because we were trying to get discovery. We were trying to get our kids home. That's always the most important thing for me, is getting children safe and sound back at home. So we didn't really contest the gag order at that time. So we shut up. Right. And we shut up from December and through February until we had that final hearing. But so think of this. November, they got the gag order. Mid-November. December 4th, Laurie Ross issues a search warrant. Now I'm thinking, okay, so why did she do that? And so I'm like, okay, so here's what I think. And I think that she was contacted, or she was in constant communication with either Tracy Hetzel or Kim Helper or Sarah Cripps or somebody else with DCS. And they let her know that there was a gag order. And since some of my settings are private, the only way they could find out whether or not I violated that gag order was to secretly get into my social media. Okay? Honestly. And so I did an open records request to Laurie Ross, or to Brentwood Police Department, and I asked for all email communication between Laurie Ross and Tracy Hetzel, Dee Dee Miller, Sarah Cripps, DA, regarding Regulate, right? Or Hancock. Regulate or Hancock, just search for those words, all right? So, everybody knows, if you have, I don't care what email application you're using, if you're using Gmail or Outlook or even some more specialized email application, a third grader knows that all you have to do is go to the search bar and put in a word and they will pop up, right? It's not like you have to review 7 months of multiple emails. So I did an open records request for that. And they want to charge me hundreds of dollars. They want to charge me like $75 an hour for 8 hours to search for emails with my name in it. And so that is so, and now they're blocking it because I said, okay, I want to know, what are the qualifications? What qualifications in education does it take to do an email search, to type a word into the search bar? They told me my request was not specific enough. So I have not given that up. I am still going to work on it. But this is what happens when you try to get public records and try to get transparency through the government. They either block you with fees, they tell you they can't do it, or it's not specific enough. And so I guess I'm just going to have to go to the Brentwood Police Department and tell them that I want to review those records, because you have the right under public records to walk into any government office or agency and ask to review certain records. All right. So that's another public records request that is pending. Also, I did a public records request to the Attorney General's office in Tennessee, because I found out that over about a 2.5-year period that the Tennessee taxpayers had paid Waller, Lansden, Dortch, and Davis over $500,000. Now, Waller, Lansden, Dortch, and Davis is a private law firm, but guess what else they do? Well, they also have a very strong government operations where they work with lobbyists. They also do political campaign contributions to certain legislators. They also are the home base of Joseph Woodruff and Robert E. Lee Davies, and even Attorney Dana McClendon has worked for Waller. So Waller has a very interesting background in history, and the Tennessee taxpayers are paying them thousands and thousands of dollars to be able to do work for Tennessee taxpayers. Wonder what that is, right? And so I did my records request. Very clear, very succinct. I went to the Transparent Tennessee. I made a little chart of all the monies that were paid to Waller over basically about a 9-year period, because it started very slow and then all of a sudden it just it was just crazy amount. I don't know if I have it here. Let me see. Brentwood Police PR Comptroller. Let me see if it's in this one. Hold on. I don't see it here. Okay. Trust me on that. All right, so I sent them this very detailed list. So I get back this letter, and here's what the letter says. This letter right here is from the Office of the Attorney General, and she says, this is a voluminous request. There are 6 appointment letters, 1 engagement letter, 105 invoices that are potentially responsive. Therefore, the records will need to be sent in installments. Thus far, I have spent 4 hours compiling and reviewing these records. I estimate it will take another 17 hours to review and redact accordingly. My hourly wage is $69.71. Now, remember, she's on the Tennessee taxpayers payroll, and this is what she does, right? She responds to public records. So we pay. So my tax dollars pay her salary, and now she wants me to personally pay to provide for me public records that should be publicly accessible. As far as I'm concerned, they should have a public records portal where everything that should be publicly accessible is publicly accessible through a portal. The fact that we even have to make requests that are stonewalled and blocked and charged for of the people that we pay for with our tax dollars is insane, So she says it will be $1,394.20 for her to process those records for me. All right. It's going to cost me, a Tennessee taxpayer, after I've already paid my taxes to support the Attorney General's office. And we have a surplus in Tennessee, by the way. So if we have a surplus in Tennessee, we are paying public employees, and then we have to individually pay to get public records. It's a problem. And they are using that to block us from public records. They don't want us to have public records. And so they charge these outrageous fees. They've done this to me so many times. It is crazy. It is worse than double dipping, because this is not a private industry. This is our government function. I mean, public records is a government function. So anyway, she wants to charge me $1,394. And so again, I think I'm just going to walk into the Attorney General's office and ask to view those records. I just want to, hold on. Crazy. All right. Sorry. I had something jump up on my computer there. I was probably being hacked. All right. So those are my public records requests that I'm working on. Now, caught you up to date. I'm just going to tell you one last thing about one of the bills I pulled up. So Tennessee Department of Children's Services is under a lot of scrutiny. Where's my letter? Oh, I printed it and I didn't go get it. So Tennessee DCS is under a lot of scrutiny. They've had several hearings. They had a hearing back in August. We had a commissioner who jumped ship. Jennifer Nichols jumped ship. She announced that in about June. She was out September 1st. Governor Bill Lee brought in Margie Quinn, who has a background, a criminal investigatory background, which is totally the wrong background to be doing this kind of work, in my opinion. And so she comes in, and one of the first things we did, and I think it was August the 30th, was the first hearing that was held. In that hearing, some interesting people showed up. Tim Irwin, who is a juvenile court judge in Knoxville, showed up. Christy Little, who's a juvenile court judge in Jackson, Tennessee, showed up. And basically, Tim Irwin said, throw money at it. He said they don't have enough places to put children. So he's taken the children, and he's claiming there's not enough places to put these children. So the Tennessee taxpayers need to throw money at it, right? Which is, we've been throwing money at it now since 1995. Okay. And it's still not working. And so, that's his response. And so then there was another hearing. Let's see, another audit report came out. There's been like two audit reports, one in 2020, one in 2022. There was another one about what the agency staff said. That report came out in the spring of 2022. Basically, all these frontline workers saying it's a horrible place to work. Do lawyers get any kickbacks for agreeing with CPS, even if it's against what the client wants? I'm going to go take a diversion here. Mary Casey asked a question if the lawyers got any kickbacks. Oh, that is a long question because, all right, I got to make a note here. I'm going to get back to this DCS bill, but I'm going to talk about what Mary asked very quickly. So you understand that in the juvenile court process, most of the cases are appointed attorneys and appointed guardian ad litems. They are on a list that the judge appoints. Okay, so the judge picks and chooses who is on a case. Right? So I'm just telling you, that's the way it is. There is no other way around it. Judges pick and choose who they want on a case. And here's an example. So in my county, in Williamson County, probably 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, Judge Sharon Guffey had a letter circulated to all the attorneys in the county. All the attorneys in Williamson County. I mean, all the attorneys, whether they did whatever, if they had their email, if the clerk had their email address, which they have everybody's email address, it went to all the attorneys. And it was from basically Sharon Guffey saying she needed attorneys to serve. And she talked about, what a great service it was and, trying to warm people's hearts to doing it because very few, there's a little handful, a crew that'll do it. And, so I sent a letter that my office would do that we would do it. And guess what? We were never called. We were never picked. We were never put on a list because they would not like the outcome if we were on the case, right? They would not like how we participated or how we worked in that case. So we were never. So is there discretion on who acts and who serves? Absolutely. And I've got proof because we tried to get on the list and Sharon Guffey refused to do that. So there is a pick and choose. And I have said this a lot of times when I give a public speech, I will say, look, what do you think a judge would rather have? Would a judge rather have an attorney who walks into the courtroom and says, Judge, we got a deal, right? And announce what the agreement is and usually have their poor clients plead guilty to abuse or neglect and then work on getting their kids back? That is basically the modus operandi. Or would the judge rather have an attorney who walks in the courtroom and says, Judge, we can't reach an agreement and we need a trial and it's going to take 6 days? Judges are like, ugh, because then they have to write findings and conclusions. They have to make evidentiary rulings. They have to find a date. They don't want to schedule more than one date. And so they have these trials that are stretched out over a year with these odd dates here and there. I mean, this one girl that I worked with before I got on her case, she had a termination of parental rights hearing. It was like 6.5 days over like 15 months or 18 months, something absolutely ridiculous. And the judges are expected to remember and make notes, and then they got to make these extensive findings. They don't like it. Okay, it's just the truth. They just don't. So those are the benefits. So they want attorneys and guardian ad litems who are going to cut a deal. And there's a whole lot of other things. I mean, there is a whole lot of other things about private providers, CASA. Whew, we could really go there. Okay, so I want to go downtown, but it's already been 38 minutes. So I'm going to share one last thing with you, which is a bill that is coming up. In this bill in Tennessee, what they want to do is they want to give foster parents, they want to give foster parents money to pay for the car insurance of teenage foster children, 15, 16, 17, 18. They want to pay for the car insurance of kids in foster care. All right, now look, I feel for kids in foster care. I hurt for children in foster care. I happen to know that there's a lot of children in foster care who don't need to be there, who have family, who have extended family, who would help those children. And the state does not want to help those people. So many children are in foster care because their parents don't have enough money. That's it. They can't get therapy for them. They can't get proper medical treatment for them. They can't, they can't, there's things they just can't keep up on financially. And so they teenagers complain if they don't get what they want. They end up in foster care, and DCS makes all these promises. I mean, I have even seen them promise a kid 17 and a half years old, look, if you just go into foster care. I've had them tell children who are 2 days from their 18th birthday, if you go in foster care, now today before you turn 18, you can get your college paid for, and you'll get a stipend basically from the government until you finish college. And they get about $400 or $500 a month, and I've seen the records on that as well. So anyway, they want the Tennessee taxpayers, all these people in Tennessee who pay taxes, to pay for the car insurance of children in foster care. So whenever there's a bill up like this, any bill has to go to fiscal, and fiscal is basically where they sit down and they figure out how much money is this going to cost the taxpayers. Now, we are well over $1 billion in DCS spending, and the new commissioners asked for another $190 million, the biggest jump ever in budget. She's asked for another $190 million. This will cost Tennessee taxpayers $2.5 million. Will cost $2.5 million. So anyway, I am going to close out here. I've taken enough of your time this morning. Thank you for checking in. If you are catching this late, please go watch the whole thing, because there is so much to say. I have been so quiet. I'm tired of being quiet. I am going to stop being quiet. I'm going to start unpeeling this for you step by step by step by step, and you're going to see more and more. So take a deep breath. I am sorry it has to be about me. I have never done child welfare advocacy to be about me. I have always done it for families and children, and to get children out of the system and to get them with families, to have them in safe environments. It's always been about that until they criminalized me and Wendy. And when they criminalized me, I knew they were making up a fake crime. I knew we were going to have to defend it. I knew they would use it to silence me. I knew that was what they were going to do. And here is where we are. And I thought we would be able to move through it quicker. I thought we would be able to get our appeal. And both are home. Thanks, Mary, for sharing that. So I knew we would ultimately be able to get through an appeal. And we're going to. And if the Court of Appeals does not overturn this, it is going to be a very sad day in constitutional America. We will not have a constitution at all. And then once it's reversed, then we'll talk about malicious prosecution for the players who have participated in this. All right, so we are going to check out. And you guys have a great day. I am headed downtown. Maybe I'll check in with you just briefly later today. Thank y'all. See you later. Bye-bye.